Tracking can be a powerful tool, but it's not the only way to know if you're eating enough to support your training. Here are the signals that can guide your fueling without obsessing over the numbers. Hi, everyone. My name is Paris Sue. They call me P2. I'm a nutrition and fitness coach, and I work with weight class athletes for performance nutrition. Now, quick disclaimer here. I am not a registered dietitian or a medical professional. Everything in this video is from my perspective as a nutritionist. Here's the thing. Tracking is awesome, and it works really well for some humans. But some others may find it not the appropriate tool, or perhaps not at this time. Maybe they're not ready to dive into the numbers, or perhaps they are recovering from some form of disordered eating or stress where they were too fixated on numbers and tracking patterns. And they want to rely on some of the qualitative body awareness cues instead. And that's okay. The whole objective is to recognize that everything that comes with this nutrition and fitness lifestyle is tools. And we're just recognizing our free will, our autonomy, our empowered choice decision making. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to go through some of the signals that we can recognize that our body's giving us right away without even looking at the numbers. And then we're going to reflect on what happens if we're not getting there. And of course, as always, we're going to have some action items to close up. Signal number 1, energy levels. Some days we're just tired. That happens. But if you're noticing some consistent patterns, like maybe it's always a day after hard training, interesting information. If you're noticing that your energy is crashing mid-morning, or there's that afternoon slump, or you're really, really hitting a wall and you just want caffeine or grabbing an energy drink. That could also be an indicator that you're not eating enough. Your body's just holding on. Maybe it's because you don't have enough macronutrients like protein, fiber, or fat. But for the purposes of this particular video, we're looking at just overall fuel. It's okay if you need the coffee or the energy drink. The issue is when you become dependent. I'm team coffee over here, to be honest with you. It's one of the things I'm snobby about in life. I really like coffee. Also, caffeine is actually a good supplement. It's supplemental for focus as a great pre-workout. But if you need it just to function, and if you're having so much of it, at one point there is a tolerance issue, which is not the point of this particular conversation. But if you feel like you can only function if you have coffee, or maybe you're masking that you're not eating enough by just having a coffee, that's another interesting thing to know. Overall, your energy levels, are they consistent? Are you having some mild ups and downs as is normal as being a person, or are you going up and crashing down? Signal 2. Training quality tells a story. So your own performance and how you are actually executing your training is one of the best indicators, in my opinion. If you're noticing that you have, of course, less energy, you're just gassing out in your training session, if you are declining in strength, if your endurance is reducing, if you're struggling to hit intensities, and I'm going to reiterate the RP, the rate of perceived exertion. If something that used to be 6 out of 10 starts to feel 9 or 10 out of 10 for you. If the intensity hasn't necessarily changed, but it just feels so much harder. If you notice that consistently the training quality has started to deteriorate, it's not one bad training session. It's multiple in a row. You're probably not eating enough. Signal number 3, your recovery. That 100% feeds into the previous point. You're at the gym and you had a hard session. The recovery shouldn't take a week. Contrary to popular belief, soreness is an indicator of a really good training session. You actually do want to recover and be able to build back up and then get back in the gym for your next session. And this is true for whatever sport you're doing. And essentially, we're trying to support the varying intensities and the various aspects and components of our training. In this particular context, let's assume there isn't added layers for stress. So you're okay there. Your sleep is okay, but it's still been 2 to 3 days. Very likely you're not eating enough. Signal number 4, body composition and performance balance. Let's say we're going to use weight as a metric. If you notice that you are suddenly losing weight. And if that is also accompanied with a decline in performance, then it does really indicate that you do need to fuel more. And it's very rarely that you're in a deficit and you have the best performance. So just a gentle reminder that maintenance and surplus usually support our performance more. But if you're not tracking, what do we know about maintenance then? If your weight suddenly shifts and you notice that your performance and your recovery are simultaneously compromised, you probably need to eat more. Signal 5, mood and mental clarity. If you're getting enough fuel, you're eating appropriately and adequately for your expenditure, the goal is that you're feeling mentally sharp, that you're aware, you're clear, you're level-headed, can make great decisions, you're quick on recall, you're quick on reacting. Let's say if you're doing a contact sport or combat sport, your response is quick and agile. But you start to notice that suddenly you're more irritable, brain fog, massive mood swings, or there's decision fatigue, making choices that's like extra challenging. That could be an indicator that you're not eating enough. The main goal I have here is to share that there are certain ways our body feels and the cues that it gives us, like the little whispers, and we're trying to listen to the whispers before it screams at us. And on their own, they don't really say much because there's a lot of other factors of life that could contribute. Like there could be some external influences. Not everything that we talk about has to do with fueling or not fueling enough. But for the purposes that we are having in this conversation, we're assuming some of the other variables are pretty consistent and we are just looking to see how our body responds. And part of this is, I guess, recognizing intuitive eating and mindful eating, if we want to add verbiage to it, because they do go hand in hand. Your calories, your macronutrients, your micronutrients, whether you're tracking or you're not tracking. These are some of the signals that our body gives us that gives us information whether we're eating enough or not. The number one, energy levels. Are they going up and down dramatically? Are they pretty consistent and stable? Is there a pattern there? Number two, training quality. Has training deteriorated? Has your capacity in training changed? Has your rate of perceived exertion shot up? Are you doing better or worse? Like, are your efforts getting you somewhere? Signal number three, your recovery. After all of the hard work you did, are you recovering or are you quite literally dragging, surviving? And in the case of something specific, like in fight camp before a marathon, sure, that is the time that you're really digging your heels deep and focusing on powering through. But this is just more of an overall indicator. Four, a body composition in tandem of looking at your performance and recovery. So if your weight shifts, your body fat percentage changes, that's what we're observing. And number five, mood and mental clarity. So when the whispers are starting to turn into screams, or if you're like really persistently under eating, is your quality of sleep is significantly impacted. Your performance declining not for 1 or 2 sessions or for a few days, but weeks. If you start to get sick, there's frequent illnesses and your recovery just drags on, or you become extra injury prone. If you are a female athlete and your menstrual cycle is being impacted and you end up having very irregular missed periods, and if you're constantly preoccupied with food. So how do we build awareness without tracking apps? Simple enough, starting with some routine. So we're starting to eat, let's say breakfast, lunch, dinner. We want some normalcy. Even the same time every day. We're trying to kind of make the variables consistent because then it's a little easier to recognize the outliers. So with those meals, we're going to make sure that they're very nutrient dense, satiating, and they're including all of our macronutrients. So is there a carb? Is there a protein? Is there a fat? Are we stable? Do we have good energy coming? And then reviewing the signals I mentioned, you ask yourself questions like, how is my energy? How's my training quality? How is my recovery? How is my mood? And then you kind of scanned to recognize some of the red flags I mentioned. So, what we're trying to do here is implement some areas of intuitive eating and mindful eating. And I will dive further in a different video, but essentially, we're being present and just noticing what we notice. For example, one of the principles of mindful eating is to breathe, to slow down, to chew thoroughly, to not be in a rush. But if you notice that you're suddenly ravenously hungry and then you are practically inhaling your food and then your energy crashes, intuitively, your body's just trying to balance itself out and give itself fuel as fast as possible. When would tracking help? Honestly, I'm a big fan of it, especially to bring together into practical practice what I just mentioned. And the thing is, it doesn't need to cross over to extreme obsessiveness. And I understand that. Believe me, I've been there personally. So to reiterate, when is it a good time to track? When might it help? If you're constantly showing signs of underfueling. So everything I talked about in the signals, if you're starting to notice some of the red flags, you're like, hey, you know what? A few days, that's great. That's sufficient. And what we want to do is preferably on weekdays and weekends, so that there is a realistic snapshot of your life. We're tracking for a few days to identify gaps. You might be convinced that you're having, let's say, 2,600 calories, and you're actually eating closer to 2,000. That was a pretty big discrepancy if you're training a lot. And the whole objective here is to use it as a learning tool. Like I said at the beginning, we're not trying to make this absolute permanent part of our lives that you track everything forever, but you're identifying gaps, you're recognizing action items you can take to improve your nutrition, recognizing the portions, kind of doing a little check-in with yourself. And I highly recommend this. I do this myself sometimes. I don't track as often anymore. It's usually if I'm starting something. Every few months, if I recognize any of these symptoms in myself, I'll track for a couple of days, and I'm usually bang on at this point with where the numbers reflect what I'm feeling. That's also almost 10 years of me doing this, where I did spend years very, very specifically tracking. And it's really given me the understanding to look at food very quickly and recognize, yeah, that's definitely not enough protein. And then I'll add it. So, yeah, let's recap our action steps. We want to focus on regular eating throughout the day instead of restricting. Routine. Meal 1, meal 2, meal 3, first and foremost. And then comes in pre-workout and post-workout. Nutrient timing gets a little bit more specific. If you're an athlete that's training multiple times a day, we want to make sure that you are fueling around your training sessions. You want to start to trust your signals. If you recognize you're under eating, you know what to do immediately. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to go grab a fruit. Your main goal here is to prioritize your performance and your energy over an appearance-based goal. It's more informative. It tells you at the beginning. So if you start to recognize how you're feeling, what you're thinking, how you're responding, it's a little bit more like early whispers, like I mentioned before. There's rapid weight loss or rapid body composition changes. Under eating has consequences. It won't make your goals come any faster. Sometimes it may compromise them because it really does depend on your starting point. And this is where the tracking is important. If you are going on an intentional deficit, and maybe it is an aggressive deficit, that's okay. If you were coming from surplus or you're aware of your maintenance and you're doing it in a controlled fashion. But if you are just dieting and then trying to diet more aggressively and then diet more aggressively and then trying to execute other things, it's just not going to happen. It's going to be the opposite of supportive. It's really going to sabotage your goals. If you want guidance building intuitive fueling strategies, that's exactly what I do through the Level Up method. Check out the description box for how to work with me, either one-on-one or for the next group cohort. Essentially, your body knows what it wants and needs better than any app. But there is actually a lot of intention and work in order to recognize those signals. Just listening to your body without giving yourself time or education or support is not very helpful. Listen to your body exactly how, why, what. So we're trying to recognize the cues. Yes, listen to our cues. And even when you do get to the tracking, We're using the numbers as support. It's just data, it's analytics. It's not the absolute be all end all. The numbers aren't perfect. They have their margins of error, whether it's human led or for a variety of other reasons. But looking at these numbers gives us data points to then cross reference and recognize how we are feeling, fueling, and performing. The both of them together, the qualitative and the quantitative, are a great combination because sometimes your feelings are lying. Sometimes, especially when it comes to certain cravings or if your sleep is off or if, other aspects of life are contributing, this is why we have something tangible like quantitative to focus on. We're human beings. Life is complex and complicated. Food isn't that complex or complicated. It is pretty simple, but just relying on variable is not really sufficient, especially if you're an athlete that's demanding a lot out of your body. What signals tell you when you are fueling well? Let me know in the comments below, and please subscribe for more athlete nutrition strategies. Thank you so much, everyone. Catch you next time.